right, what's going on, boys and girls? So this particular video, we're going to be talking about why I think Eposvox and Linus from LTT are kind of right and kind of wrong. Short version, we don't recognize irony. The first thing we ever tell a new user is not to copy and paste commands from the internet into the terminal because it's a security problem. Yet the first thing we do when we go and do man pages or give help on a forum, copy and paste these commands from the internet into the terminal. Now, before I get the whole, well, the terminal is ubiquitous. Yes, TTY is. What version are you running? Are you running Bash? Are you running Fish? Are you running, insert whatever version of a terminal and other stuff you want to run? It's all, syntax is different. Then when you get into package management, it's different. Zipper is not the same as DNF. DNF is not the same as apt. Apt is not the same as installing the universal packages. Pacman is definitely not the same as anything else. Then we can get into like EKPOG and all the other stuff for like Solus. It's all different. So it can be ubiquitous all at once. The application or the thing that is there can be ubiquitous. The angle and the avenue that you take to get to the end result that you're looking for that goal is probably going to be a bit different. And number two, stop recommending rolling distros for people who don't need them. Generically, if you are a AMD user, I would recommend a rolling distro simply based on the fact that improvements are going to be in the kernel and in the Mesa drivers. That's it. Only reason. Or if for some reason you want to do an appliance-based system and you need better control, totally get it. A general LTS is not going to work for you because it's just not. Most everyday sane users, just give them an LTS distro. They'll be fine with using like the 3-year-old things in Debian. Most end users, day-to-day, everyday mom and pop users aren't going to care. They just want to use their shit and move on. And that particular thing is not a wrong mindset. Know the audience when you make the recommendations. So for things like gaming, yeah, if gaming is the primary focus, I'm probably going to recommend a rolling distro just because of how often things like DXVK and other aspects of that particular program and end of Linux is developed. It changes constantly. But if you're fine just running a Proton experimental, any distro is going to be fine. So even the old, crusty like 2004 is going to do you fine. Know the audience you're making the recommendation for. So they're not wrong on those two. Linus and Eposvox, however, are wrong on the mindset, the mind frame in which they approach this. Linus expects Linux, insert whatever distro, whether or not he's blowing up a Pop OS install or anything with Manjaro. At the end of the day, he's expecting this to be a replacement, a drop-in replacement for Windows. Newsflash, Mac OS isn't a drop-in replacement for Windows either. Every platform has its deficiencies, has its areas it's lacking in. Just point the finger at the thing causing the deficiency and not the platform if the platform can technically do it. Example, the constant, you can't game on Mac OS is right, but it's also wrong. Based on the hardware, the Apple at the time where that was mostly prevalent, the Intel integrated graphics and all that crap, where that is mostly prevalent, it's not that the OS technically can't run that stuff. It's based that the software is not able to run based on the hardware and that combination. So I'm going to blame Apple for making the gaming experience on macOS kind of shit based on their hardware choice, which then in turn affects their software choices and affects what software can run on the hardware. So the only person I'm going to blame is Apple. I'm not going to blame the game manufacturer when they try to support it, but based on the fact I can't run it simply because the hardware doesn't support it. And who makes the hardware? Apple. It's about pointing the finger at the right things. So, example, we get Linux doesn't have Photoshop, so or Adobe Creative Cloud or whatever stupid thing they're calling it this time. Here's the thing. It's not that the platform can't run it. It's Adobe doesn't support it. Linus, you want to bitch about the Elgato shit now working, your capture card and the stream at deck. I know there are ways to get the Stream Deck working, but maybe because you're big enough, you can bitch at Elgato and they might actually do something about it. Community! Novel idea. So, don't blame the platform because it's not a technical deficiency of the platform that it can't run that hardware. The technical deficiency is the fact that it's not being supported by the people making the shit. That's where I have a problem. Point the finger at the right people and the right places. You guys are not doing that. And the other thing that I have a problem with is this drop-in replacement crap. Because, like I said earlier, when I was talking about not recommending the CLI to do stuff, that applies to your guys' approach to this. You guys aren't willing to take the different starting points and angles that those trails entail. Example, Windows 10 has a weird audio issue when you plug in a Blue Yeti mic that it automatically goes to the monitoring port on the Blue Yeti. Stupid as crap. Doesn't happen on Linux. Another one is macOS. Something that I find is a system halter for me for content creation. I can't record desktop audio without some third-party application on a OS and hardware that is supposed to be catering to creators. That's absurd. So I blame OBS for potentially not having that function, but I'm also going to blame Apple. No, I'm going to blame OBS because there's something going on there, unless Apple has consistently kept changing the background stuff. But seeing how I've tried OBS on 3 different Macs and it's the same issue, I'm not sure if it's just the way macOS works or it's a limitation of the hardware. So where do I point the finger? Right now, I'm going to point it at OBS because that's the program. And the fact that I could probably point it at Apple because a third party solves that real quick. But who knows? So I'll blame the program as opposed to blaming Apple, even though the way they control their ecosystem, it wouldn't surprise me. But there are things like that I don't go into macOS expecting certain apps to work. There are apps on Windows that I prefer over macOS apps, over Linux apps. Example, we can talk video editors. One of my favorite video editor on Windows, Curl Video Studio Ultimate. Pay for it every year. Best $99 purchase I make every year. macOS, I detest Final Cut. It's overkill for me. I don't need it. iMovie works perfectly fine. Linux, everyone would think I would assume Kdenlive. Actually, I'm a Cinelera GG guy. Like that's my bucket and my bag of stuff. But honestly, what I do, So that all that doesn't matter. And I can adapt between every one of those because I've taken the time to understand that every platform is different. I get rid of the problem that Gnome likes to talk about getting rid of the underlying problem. I get rid of the underlying problem by running cross-platform shit. Novel idea. Your approach is fucked. So you're going to have a fucked experience. That's the short version. So with me saying that, what I mean is you guys didn't approach this coming from a different angle or a different perspective, that it's going to be different, that it's not just a quote unquote drop in. There's a difference between a replacement. A drop in replacement specifically is the wording that a lot of people use, and an alternative. Alternatives have different routes, however you want to say it, to the goal. A drop in means, oh, I can drop in a different car and still go down the same road. It's not how technology works. And you guys damn well know it because you're damn well in the field. So you guys can talk about the Linux community being disingenuous and not realizing the irony. But honestly, look in the mirror. I don't think you guys notice the irony of how you guys approach it either. It's a lot more similar than you think.